And how much money would you say Funk Volume generated over its span?
I don't know, like definitely millions.
It was a label that made millions without a national radio campaign.
For sure.
Episode number 5. It's the MEC podcast. My name is DJ Payne 1. That is Dame Ritter. I shouldn't have joked last week about Kato not being able to stand us anymore. Now people are going to think it's a conspiracy, like something to do with Illuminati and Hobson or something, but it's not. He's on a family vacation. Let's kick things off with some controversy. We don't want to keep bringing this up. Yeah, we do. But something else came up with regard to management. I remember Dame and I had a quite famous, I'm lying, it wasn't that big, debate about management a couple months ago. We did it live, and we're doing it again. But this is all about a tweet that Jadakiss sent out that I retweeted. Number one, I pretty much just go with whatever Jadakiss says. He's top 5. And
rapper, not top 5, like business savvy.
Yeah, I'd say he's pretty business savvy.
What'd you say?
He's pretty business savvy. You got to give him that. How long has he been?
I don't know. I don't know him personally, but that's not part of his brand, really.
I think I disagree, but I'm just kind of like a Jadakiss fanatic, so I'm probably going to disagree with anything that goes against Jadakiss at this point.
Okay, so
let's talk about. Let me pull the tweet up so I can read it in its full context and verbatim, so we're not changing anything. So what Jadakiss said was, and this was July 19th, no, July 12th. This was a while ago. He said, to all new and up and coming artists, if you truly want to be successful, don't get a manager. You'll be better off figuring it out as you go. DJ Booth actually responded and agreed, and they have an article called "Artists Stop Looking for a Manager, the Good Ones Will Find You."
Well, that's different, because Mark Tavern, who was a guest on the MEC, wrote that article for DJ Booth, and it wasn't like never get a manager wasn't the messaging. It was, continue to build on your own until, build the momentum yourself so that you're learning, you start to understand the business, and the right manager will find you when the time is right. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was his stance, like don't get a manager. And maybe that's not Jadakiss's stance, like ever, but that's the thing. All these tweets, we're only given a certain amount of characters, and it's hard to provide context and, talk about exceptions to the rule. We just are given a tweet, and now it sparks some emotion and conversation.
But I want to just say, there are 2 things about Jadakiss' tweet that I think are absolute gems. The first one, actually 3. He says, to all new and up and coming artists. Number 1, if you're a new and up and coming artist, you see new and up and coming artists all the time focus more on getting a manager than finding fans, than booking shows, than networking, than using their social media, than telling their story, than investing in themselves, than branding. And that's a major problem. You see somebody look for the right manager or bounce from manager to manager for 10 years. And then eventually they say, man, this industry's rigged against me. I can't win. Because, they're finding all these bum ass managers. And no disrespect, I'm on the manager side of the conversation when it comes to all these controversies about managers doing this and that. I think for the most part, as someone who has managed one artist, it was hell. And the artist was really difficult to work with and made my life miserable. I know you've been through the same thing, but with regard to these new up and coming artists, my friend Shah is an exception, but there are a lot of artists that, they're just making music. They don't know anything about the business. What kind of manager do they find? They find a manager who's an equal partner, in the sense that this manager doesn't know anything about the business either. The artist just wants a manager because, 1, the artist thinks the manager is going to do everything for them, and 2, they just want to feel important and say, yeah, I got a manager. And I can't stand that. I can't stand walking up to a manager and saying, hey, yeah, I like your music. Yeah, let's collaborate on something, which is something I used to do all the time. And then the artist would say, yeah, talk to my manager. Like, shut up, man. Tell your manager, kiss my ass. I'm not talking to your manager. You live down the street from me. I'm not talking to your manager. So,
I mean, I agree. So there's no one situation is the same. There's so many different things that are happening. So many different ways people are pursuing music. But I would never give an artist advice like even don't get a manager, even if you're just starting out, because I feel like if you find the right person that is just as passionate about what you're doing, obviously two heads are better than one. Two people's efforts are better than one, even on social media, two people's ideas, two people reaching out to other people, networking, and you can craft it in a way that makes sense. I think the problem is with the selection of the person that these people are finding, right? Like you said, they just want help and they just want things to be easier. So they don't have the right expectations. They're not even searching for a manager with the right mindset, right? So they're not selecting the right person. And they're probably, because they just want help, they're just bringing on anybody as opposed to continuing to work and grind and figure things out yourself until you find the right person. So I don't ever say, hey, only get a manager at this point. You just have to select the right person. That's all. That's really all it is. Because there's very few managers, there's very few artists. And let me ask you, do you know any artist that has had any type of success that manages themselves? And you might know one or two, but the point is, it's probably going to be maybe 2% of all artists.
Well, I think it depends on what we're calling success, because I know quite a few artists that have had longevity, have had 20-year careers.
Okay, let's just call success full-time musicians. What percentage of artists that you know don't have a manager that are full-time artists?
I'd say a good 25 to 30%.
30% of artists you know that are full-time musicians don't have managers.
Yeah.
Like I literally only know like one or two. Like R.A. the Rugged Man, I don't believe has a manager, but he's been doing it for so long, he kind of knows what he's doing. And that's about it. Like I don't know any, because most artists I know have a hard time keeping up with their email and responding to a call and responding to a text, or doing the most simple things ever. So if you fall into that category, you're definitely going to need somebody to help you if you want any type of success in the music industry.
But my personal feeling is that artists who have trouble responding to an email and so forth aren't really going to survive for that long, unless they're immensely talented and they had a great run that they can live off for the next couple of decades, which is possible. You're going to have to grind at some point, especially given that, the money's going to stop coming in. I know. So of the people
or they have a manager. Or they have a manager.
Well, but that's not good for. No. You shouldn't have a man if the money's not coming in. So here's the thing, man. You have a 10-year career in the music industry. You're probably not working with the same manager for those 10 years. And I'm working with people that have maybe, 20, 30-year careers. Number one, some of them might have managers. I know for a fact that many of them don't. These are the people that I work really, really close with.
Are these producers or artists?
No, these are artists. These are rappers, recording artists. So some of them are producers.
But 25% of the artists, not producers that that are full-time musicians, don't have them.
I'd say 25% of all across the board, all artists that are full-time. And to me, it's that.
No, I'm talking about just the one. I mean, because we don't have that statistic, so that would just be an estimate. And so you said that 25% of the artists that don't have a manager, but they're full-time musicians, and I know one. 25% to me would be eye-opening to me, but that's still a minority.
You also have more friends than I do.
But but that's why I would think I would know more artists that are doing well without a manager.
Yeah.
Right? I know a lot of artists that are doing well, and maybe I'm missing somebody, but like literally RA is the only one that comes to mind right now.
Well, we don't know if I imagine Jadakiss has a manager. I think his tweet. So the second part of his tweet that I like is that he said, "You'll be better off figuring it out as you go." And I honestly think that the spirit of his tweet is not anti-manager. I think the spirit of his tweet is to encourage up-and-coming artists to see that they themselves have not only the power to learn, but the burden of learning and developing themselves. So back to what I was saying, you got to figure, right? So if we're going to talk numbers, how many musicians do you know that have tried and just failed? Probably not because of their lack of talent, but just because of their lack of consistency, their lack of professionalism, their lack of dedication. Quite a few. So if we're going to draw out a ratio, it's probably something like 50-1. Maybe more.
Definitely.
If it's 100-1, 100 artists try to become full-time and one of them succeeds in doing that. Certainly on the long term, certainly if we're talking about more than 3 to 5 years. Managers are the same way. The same way that artists are just humans who make mistakes, managers are humans who make mistakes too. So it's going to be really difficult to find that manager. It's not like there's just this surplus of great, amazing managers out there.
Oh, there's very few. I've run into very few like good young managers, especially. Very few have their head on the right way.
And the managers that are out there that are that valuable, number one, they deserve their money. They deserve to be compensated because I know what managers do. They give themselves up. They put the artist before themselves and get a fraction of what the artist makes. So it's a really awful deal for the manager if we're just looking at it from a numerical standpoint. But in addition to that, they don't want to work with an artist that doesn't have the right kind of talent, the right kind of mindset, because they know that they're going to have to be working twice as hard for 1/5 of what the artist is getting. So there are tons of managers out there that will manage you. Should you fall into that trap? And a lot of artists fall into that. This is why the Jadakiss tweet is so important, where he says you're better off learning as you go. I don't think you would disagree with that. If you're an artist who learns as you go, when it comes time to actually work with people, and I'm going to make a sad ass video about this because I've had all these devastating, crushing experiences, and there has been a manager involved. Yeah, I know, damn, you don't respect my emotions, but to be completely honest, I had to learn a lot before I could. It's like a relationship, you know what I mean? If you're mentally messed up and you have low self-esteem and this and that, who are you going to find as your romantic partner? You're going to find someone probably either just as messed up as you or someone manipulative and abusive that's going to take advantage of that. Same with managers. I see people with managers. The managers don't do a damn thing. They're just there. The artist isn't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And it's awful to watch because it's just a waste of time and talent. And I feel like with Jadakiss, he's just saying, look, learn because you can learn and you should learn. And your focus shouldn't be on finding a manager. I'm sure he's seeing the same thing that we're seeing, which is artists scrambling to find a manager to get their career off the ground rather than focusing on fans, rather than focusing on content, rather than reading books and blogs and this and that about social media marketing. And granted, it's Twitter, so everyone's going to take it one way or the other. But this goes back to what you say. Not everyone's supposed to make it. So the people I think that are taking this tweet the wrong way, either they're going to figure it out or they're not. And that's just kind of the natural order of the creative career field.
Yeah. I mean, you have cause everybody has a different take on the tweet. And if you received it the way you did, then I would probably agree with the tweet. what also could have happened, and then this is obviously an assumption, is that Jadakiss is actually going through an issue now with a current manager. And because of this current issue, he's telling artists not to. We don't know. I would love to have him on this podcast and talk about it. But I guess to me, it's all about understanding why you need a manager and selecting the right person. So I would definitely agree that there are very few up and coming managers that know what they're doing, but there are some. So I wouldn't close the gate completely. So I would definitely learn the business yourself, because at the end of the day, like, you need to learn this stuff. And I'm never working with an artist that's not committed to learning the business to some extent, because that's what really causes issue in the end. If the manager knows what he or she is doing and the artist doesn't understand the business, it's very hard to have business conversations. So it should be on the artist to learn as much as they can about the business so that they can contribute strategically to their career and make the right moves. But I think more managers should be part of the Music Entrepreneur Club, more aspiring managers, because if you really want to manage artists, I don't see that many young cats that are really moving and learning and doing what they should be doing in order to support an artist. We don't have that many managers in the Music Entrepreneur Club. I would say it's like 5% of people, if that.
Yeah. Even on tour, we don't see that many managers. I mean, we see one or two in every crowd, but yeah. I think that's a bad sign if you're seeing more artists than managers taking their careers seriously enough to attend one of our events, right? I mean, that goes back to what I'm saying. Not every manager should be a manager. The same way not every rapper should be a rapper, every producer should be a producer.
Right. Yeah. No, we definitely need more managers to learn, because I think some people just get thrust into the position. They don't really know what they're doing. And that's okay as long as you're committed to being the best person for that role. I got put in the position of management kind of just by default, but I don't have your normal background of a manager, right? So I went to business school. I was a consultant, so I have at least structure and know how to think about business in general. It was just applying that to the music industry.
But you worked on your feet, because there's nothing about going to business school that makes you more fit to be a music manager. But the fact that you worked on your feet when it was time.
I would actually disagree with that, because to me, a manager these days is more than just what a manager used to be. It's like a full-on business development role. So if you understand business, or just have that structure, and understand the different elements of business, and have worked in other businesses and consulted other businesses, what we're doing is not unlike any other business, really. We have a product, which is music, and we're trying to get it out to the world. And as an artist, you kind of have 5 businesses in one, when you have the music, the touring, the publishing, the merch, management piece. So to me, if you don't have to go to business school for this, but if somebody had an MBA and they wanted to be a manager, I would put confidence in that person.
Okay, touche, Dan. And I'm getting soft too, because I'm about to say something else that is not argumentative at all. And I'm going to tell you this: when I was a producer I was at that juncture in life where I wanted to turn my 10-year hobby into a career, I worked with a manager who also didn't know what the hell he was doing. He just started out, and he got me a #1 record, and his name was Brendan. He's from Toronto. Shout out to him. He discovered me, T-Minus, in The Weeknd. So obviously that guy, not knowing what he was doing necessarily from a seasoned managerial business standpoint, had enough commitment and enough passion and enough drive to make that happen. And obviously he had the right ear, because he worked with some great people. So, and then back to my friend Shao, who doesn't have, I mean, he kind of has a business. He'll tell you he has a business background, but he doesn't have an MBA. He was working with local musicians. And granted, every single one that he was working with fell off. But as far as, or maybe I shouldn't say fell off, but they're not full-time recording artists. But he was able to put a lot of gas on their fires. And this was all on a local level. You'll probably never hear of the artist that he was managing, but he added value. And so there are managers out there that do add value. I personally think that the artists that work with managers, and in spite of working with a competent manager, still fail, it has to do with them not understanding the business and not even trying to. Because if they understood the business, if they understood themselves and their own goals and their commitment to those goals and to the business that they claim to want to be in, it'd be an entirely different situation, because they would know exactly what the manager's function was, and they could have conversations that made sense. When a manager's telling you about an all-in booking expense, and all you're hearing is, oh, I'm only getting $300 for this show. No, I'm not trying to do that. Little do you know, the manager's trying to create a relationship with that promoter. Maybe it's a student organization. You know that the end of their funding year is approaching, so that the following year you're going to catch them early on and get 5 times that amount for your show. And then on top of it, yeah, $300 isn't much, but they're covering expenses, and you don't want to go all in for $300. You want to negotiate, and the artist doesn't care because they don't understand the differences. Then that becomes a point of contention, because that artist might turn around and say, yeah, this manager's trying to play me like a sucker, and this manager is not good for my career. And you turn around and hire your uncle, because your uncle's sitting there with his chest puffed out, drinking a beer, talking about, I'd have gotten you $80 million for that event. It's like, cool, yeah, let me fire my manager who knows what he's talking about and hire my alcoholic uncle. And then 2 years from now, I'm going to completely quit and never put another record out again.
That sounds like that got personal quick.
No, I just have a vivid imagination. I don't know if I hired their alcoholic uncle.
All right, so let's sum up. So to the managers out there,
we love you. You deserve 20% and more.
Nah, step your shit up. If you're a young manager, you have to understand this business. You have to communicate, treat people the right way, and actually commit to business development in terms of working with artists. To the artists out there, if you're just up and coming, don't expect a manager. Like, figure out things on your own. It's super important. But I wouldn't be cut off to all conversations should you happen to come into contact with somebody that is knowledgeable, that is passionate, that's just as committed to you, to your career. I wouldn't shut off that conversation, because even though it's probably not that many people, it can happen. And then when you do get involved with a manager, make sure you're getting a manager for the right reasons. And it's not just because you want help and you want to take a little bit of the stress off, because when you're in that position, you might bring on the wrong person. And any other gems to pull out of this conversation?
I agree with that. We just got to take our role seriously. And if you don't know yourself, if you don't know your goals, if you don't know your commitment, if you don't know what you need out of a situation, you're never going to get what you need out of a situation. So just know what you need and understand the landscape of your business.
Right. Yeah. And I still think the fact that I only know one artist that is doing it like without a manager should be all the proof we need to know that a good manager is a crucial part of your team if you want to get past a certain level.
But if I'm going to argue with you,
okay,
just to end the conversation, right? Just like ending the conversation on an argumentative note. So if you're an up and coming artist and you do all there is you can without a manager, and you hit this ceiling where you actually do need a manager, up to that point, you're still a successful artist.
Yeah.
So that I don't think that goes against what I'm saying. Just because you have to get a manager at some point to handle something, obviously you do. I mean, like, Soul doesn't have a manager. when we go on tour, there's a booking manager. We need a booking manager. We don't need a manager to tell us to check our email. We don't need a manager to tell us how to reach out to a distributor. We don't need a manager to tell us to post something on social media. We don't need a manager to tell us to coordinate our graphics with a designer. We don't need managers to do that and still surviving in the game. So that's just one example. And so I think if you're at the point where you get a manager, it's not that you needed that manager to come up. You needed the manager to actually do what managers do, which is manage, because you've created something that's successful enough for someone to not only manage for you, but to earn 20% off of it and be happy.
Well, I think I would also say, like, again, going back to a manager being more of a business developer, like a good manager, in my opinion, doesn't just like manage what you have going on, right? Like a good manager has a vision as well that hopefully you share with the artist, so that you're growing this business. You're not just managing it. Like you have a strategic vision and you have ideas that you're putting on the table, and you're not just a glorified assistant.
Yeah, but be careful if that's your level of investment, because that's how managers get burned out. I mean, obviously you're a good manager if you care that deeply about the artist and their music and you see the long term. If they don't see the long term and if they don't care that much, it's going to be as you say, Dame, it's going to be all bad for you as the manager.
Right. I just hate that we're getting to a point where, like, you know, independent is like a cool thing to be now, but I think most people are confusing like independent to some people means like completely by yourself, and you want to cut off like all these quote unquote middlemen, and some of these people aren't middlemen. Like some of these people play actual crucial roles, and if you're going to cut out what you're calling these middlemen, you need to understand that you have to now do these roles yourself just as good, if not better, than the person that you want to cut out, right? So if you don't want a manager, you have to be willing to do all of the things that a manager would potentially do for you, just as good, if not better, than somebody that does understand that role. And I just want artists to understand that, and I want artists to really just step their game up, because I shouldn't be running into to that many artists that don't know how to return calls or don't know how to check their email. That's ridiculous to me. You know,
but that's a character flaw, and people have to be real with themselves. It's like if you get a job working for a trucking company and you sleep in and don't actually drive the truck, very obvious is the fact that you don't want that job. With music, if somebody emails you to network or provide some kind of opportunity for you and you don't return that email, and you're not excited about the possibilities of growing and working with that person, and insofar as it benefits your career in the long term, then you don't want a career in music.
Right. No, but you're at a point now, Payne, where you have a very mature outlook on this. You know, a lot of young people, they don't understand, or they don't know how to communicate or return communication. Like it's just not, because they've never had even that trucking job. They've never had that structure. You know, they've never been in an environment where communication was that crucial to the success of their role, most likely. So,
but aren't you emotionally attached? I mean, if you're so in love with music, and here comes somebody who's validating that and saying, yeah, I want to work with you, why would you just say, yeah, okay?
That's what, there are so many questions that I don't have answers to, and so many situations that I've ran into that have been just so weird. I used to try to find answers to them, but now I'm just like, you run into a weird situation, you're just like, oh, there that goes again, I'm good. And then you go do something else. But anyway, what other topic do we have on I know we spent a majority of our hour on management once again, but I think that the conversation was healthy and necessary.
So I want to talk about radio, and you're a good person to talk about radio with, because, correct me if I'm wrong, in the history of Funk Volume. Did you ever have national radio campaigns running?
No.
Okay.
We got a song played like local, like here in LA, and we would hear that the song got played by just like DJs that were fans that have a little bit of maybe during a mix show hour or something like that.
Right.
But we never spent money at radio. And then once we got involved with Warner, they helped us get kind of some regular rotation at Sirius Radio, satellite radio, which was really cool. But nah, we didn't really make radio music. So.
And how much money would you say Funk Volume generated over its span?
I don't know, like definitely millions.
Okay, so it was a label that made millions without a national radio campaign.
For sure, yeah. Revenue, yeah.
So I'm gonna parallel the conversation about radio with the conversation about managers, because a lot of up and coming artists are equally focused on radio as they are on managers, not focused on fans though, not focused on social media, not focused on career and brand building.
You're still having conversations about radio, like even with damn, that's crazy. I mean, radio still is effective, but it is. There's so many ways to come up these days that radio shouldn't even be a thought for an up and coming artist until you get to a certain point. I mean, the majors still kind of have, or unless you got somebody that really knows how to work a radio campaign, but it's going to cost a lot of money. I don't even feel like you should be thinking about that. There's so many other ways to start building fans, but you're probably going to get to that. So my bad. Continue.
Well, I'm going to get to all of it because I have 3 points that I want to make about radio. I'm just going to run them down the list. You might agree. I think you will, but you never know. So number one, and this echoes what you already said. If you're an up-and-coming artist or even a successful independent artist, such as the ones that were signed to Funk Volume, you don't need radio. You don't need commercial radio. You don't need a national radio campaign. Because the thing about radio, and I see artists on a local level in my city, I'm sure you see that too, angry all the time at the local, like rhythmic radio stations. We don't have hip-hop radio out here, or urban radio, rather. They got it in Milwaukee, but they don't have it in my city. Mad at them because they're not breaking new artists. Radio doesn't break new artists. Radio plays what's successful already or what people with proven track records tell them to play. Trust me, man, like you turn on the radio and you hear Old Town Road Again. Guess what? I hate to say it, but someone's requesting that. Because I worked in radio for 5 years and I'm like, no one wants to hear this stuff that they play all the time. And then I checked because they have those live request panels. And it's like people saying, hey, can you play that Jason Derulo? And it's like, bro, we just played it. Can you play that Britney Spears? Serious? People want to hear it? Of course they want to hear it. That's why the music is popular. At the end of the day, it's all people. People like to say it's a machine. It's people. Which brings me to number two. You hear the same songs over and over again on the radio. Why? Number one, because people are requesting those songs. But number two, because if you did any kind of cursory research on how radio operates, commercial radio operates, there are broadcasting companies that own multiple radio stations. Some of these companies, such as iHeartRadio or Radio.com, own thousands of radio stations. They own the majority of radio stations. Sometimes there are regional broadcasting companies that just own a lot of radio stations in a certain area. But regardless, it's the same company. So you're going to hear the same company playlist here and there. It's not going to change based on where you go because it's the same freaking company. You know what I mean? Pepsi in California doesn't taste any different from Pepsi in Florida. It's the same company. Number three, you can't break into radio with a small budget. And like Dame said, you shouldn't even be trying. I remember when I was working in radio and I was talking to some of these independent guys. You probably met the independent guys, right? The independent, which just means they're not associated with a major label. The independent radio promoter people, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are super legit. I mean, they just came from either major labels or, you know, they have the relationships. You just never know. I mean, there's a lot of cats that are scamming people and don't know what they're talking about. But
well, I want to talk about that. So that was point number 4, which is that a lot of the people that are selling you these radio packages for $1,500, $3,000, whatever, they're either scamming you or you really have to read what that radio campaign entails. It's not a national radio campaign, because you got to figure, if it only costs $1,500 or $3,000 to break into radio the way that, you know, Old Town Road broke into radio, the way that somebody like a Jason Derulo breaks into radio, then everybody would be doing it. You wouldn't be hearing the same 20 songs over and over again. You'd be hearing tons of music from people who had $1,500 in their pocket. A lot of artists got $1,500 in their pocket to spend on radio. So if it worked, we'd be seeing it. So when one of these radio promo people come up to you and say, $1,500, we got you, we're going to break you into radio, they're lying to you. And the fact that you can just turn your radio on and you don't hear independent, unsigned artists who just spent $1,500, that should show you that they're lying. And so back to my story, when I was working in radio, I was forming relationships because I was mix show. So I was forming relationships with, and there are very few, most people that get songs played on the radio are just, I think they're label employees, you know, and shout out to them. I worked with a lot of them. They have relationships. That's why they're on salary to do this. They work relentlessly. They'll visit you at the station. They'll, you know, maintain relationships with the PDs and MDs, and they have proven track records. And it's just easier if you have a relationship with somebody to just take their record and play it. But there were the independent guys, like you said, were either former label employees or just connected in the business. And I was talking to one of them, and damn, I forget his name. Because I would just say his name. And I was in radio because I made music, and I had a couple rap groups, and I wanted to get radio play. So I think, okay, cool, I'm in. I've done this dude some favors, played a lot of the music that he sent me, because I had a lot of creative control over my mix show at that time. So I said, hey, what would it cost for me to work with you on one of these radio campaigns? He was doing like Pitbull. He was doing, big records. He was like, if you don't have $30,000, don't even talk to me. And $30,000 is just to get started. There was that interview with, who's that singer from DC that was on the Gold Link record? Brent.
Fayez.
Say his name?
Brent Fayez?
Yeah. So his manager was talking about radio campaigns in an interview, and he said 50,000. Okay, 50,000. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the number that seemed right to me. But 50,000 isn't something that an independent artist can sustain. Most independent unsigned artists can sustain, because that's 50,000 for one campaign for one song, right? So when artists come up to me and say, how do I break into radio? I just look at them and say, you don't, man. Get some fans. It's always going to come back to me telling you get some fans, because you don't need radio when you have 2,000 fans spending $40 on you a year. You do the math. What is radio going to do for you? You're not a radio artist. You're an unsigned artist. You have to do the groundwork. If by some miracle, some up and coming artist, say it was me, 10 years ago, had his song played on the radio across the country, I wouldn't have even known how to take advantage of that.
Right.
Once those spins stop, they just stop. Either a label steps in and says, hey, you're getting a lot of spins, let's sign you. If that doesn't happen, because I've seen it. I've seen independent artists hit certain numbers because they just got lucky, and they're not around today.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that people are even hitting you up about this, that this is still like a conversation that people are having. I know Chuck Dizzle from a radio host here, 92.3, The Real in LA. He was on the MEC recently, kind of breaking down how things work, just trying to get people to understand that like radio is more for the passive, more of the passive listener. These aren't like your hardcore hip hop heads or just hardcore, like passionate, music fans. And he was very insightful. So again, that was just my way to plug our MEC sessions again, because they're super valuable and you're hearing from people that are actually at these radio stations or at these record labels or just in the business in general. So, you know, if you were in these MEC sessions, you wouldn't even be bringing these questions to Payne and getting Payne hot and upset about radio. The radio, to me, this was a conversation like 9 years ago, like when I first got into the music industry, but I didn't think like with Spotify and playlisting and, you know, I thought that conversation has shifted more to like how to get on playlists as opposed to how to get on the radio.
Well, it has, and we got playlist scammers out there too, because, you know, you think you're going to get on the top Spotify playlist when those are all internal and major label artists are dominating those. You're not going to get into those either. Not for no $1,500, $300, whatever those the scammers are telling you.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It just seems like artists are trying so hard to circumvent the true process of building fans. And, you know, there's no shortcuts to this. You know, you have to put in the work. Every once in a while, somebody comes out the woodwork and maybe they did use a shortcut, but trying to find a shortcut is like trying to hit the lottery. You know, that's for like a very few people. Most people are going to have to put in the work, build those fans like Payne is talking about, and you know, and start building that momentum. Stop looking for shortcuts, man. The shortcuts don't really exist. You know, so yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Cool. On that note, I think that's a great message to conclude MEC podcast number 5 on. My name is DJ Payne 1. This is Dame Ritter. Hopefully next week we're gonna have a third, if not a fourth. But we're gonna have a good conversation either way.
And the MEC tour starts on August 4th to August 11th. Got to plug the MEC tour. We're going to be on the East Coast. We're going to be in Atlanta, Boston, DC, Philly, and New York. If you're in any of those cities, you can get tickets right now at mectour.com. Come rock with us.